Greetings dear friends, this is your personal English coach Professor DC, and in this video we will be understanding the future perfect continuous tense. Let me walk you through the agenda of my video explanation. Dear friends, in a couple of minutes from now we will be going through 6 main topics. We will start off understanding the usage of the future perfect continuous tense. We will derive a definition from the usage. I'll tell you the formula of all those sentences which are in the future perfect continuous tense. Now friends, there are only 2 scenarios where this tense is used to describe or demonstrate them. We will see what those 2 scenarios are. I'll give you examples for each scenario so that you have a good mastery over this tense. And finally, I'll help you summarize this tense so that you can remember and practice it forever. So, let's get started with the usage. Dear friends, the future perfect continuous tense is a verb tense that describes actions that will continue up until a point in the future. You might want to note this down. Action that will continue up until a point in the future. It doesn't matter when this activity or action began. The activity will have begun sometime in the past, present, or in future. What's important is the activity is expected to continue in the future. So bottom line is, if there is an action or activity or event or incident, and if that particular activity, incident, or event is continuing in the future, you have to use the future perfect continuous tense to describe it. Alright, can we derive a definition from the usage? The definition is pretty straightforward and simple. The tense which is used to represent a continuous action which will be done at a certain time in the future is called the future perfect continuous tense. What are some of the examples of this tense? Examples can be something like, I will have been writing articles on different topics before you come. Robert will have been reading various kinds of books on this topic. They will have been playing football in that field before you reach. April will have been gossiping in the coffee shop before she comes here. Dear friends, what do you observe here? You must have noticed that the activities writing, reading, playing, gossiping are continuing in the future, isn't it? Now, you might be thinking, Professor, is there an easy way to remember this tense? Yes, there is if you remember this analogy or diagram that I'm about to show you. The diagram looks something like this. The blue vertical line indicates the present time and the red colored dot indicates action. It's very clear from the figure that the action might have begun in the past. The action might have just started in the present time, which is indicated by a red dot on the present time. Or the activity might have begun sometime in the future, which is shown by the red dot after the present time. And the continuation of that activity is shown by the arrow mark. So, if such is the scenario, you will have to use the future perfect continuous tense to describe it. So keep this diagram in your memory and recall it whenever needed. You must be thinking, alright, I've understood the concept of this tense, but Professor, how do I make sentences out of the future perfect continuous tense? Now to make sentences, you'll have to remember the formula of the sentences which are in the future perfect continuous tense. It's very simple, it is very straightforward. The future perfect continuous tense consists of, I would say, 3 things. Number 1, will. Number 2, have been. And number 3, V1 plus ing. What is this V1 plus ing called? It is called present participle. And what is participle? If you add something to the verb, it becomes a participle. So here we will be using the present participle. which is nothing but V1 plus ing. So here is the final formula. Subject plus will plus have been plus V1 plus ing plus object. Friends, I want you to memorize this formula by heart, because in the next slides that I'm about to show you, you will have to recall this formula again and again. Now, you have understood the usage, definition, analogy, and formula. It's time for me to tell you the two scenarios where this tense is used to describe them. Scenario number 1. When you want to talk about a duration, or when you want to refer the time of an activity that is going to continue in the future, you use this particular tense. Let's see 10 good examples of this scenario. They will have been talking for over an hour by the time Thomas arrives. She is going to have been working for 3 years when it finally closes. By 2021, he will have been studying at the university for 2 years. Before they return from work, she will have been studying for 2 hours. Mary will have been watching TV since morning. Susan will have been answering emails since 10 o'clock. She will have been working for over 8 hours by the time her children arrive. By this time, they will have been riding for 5 hours. By Sunday, they will have been traveling for 5 days. By the next year, I will have been working here for 10 years. Now friends, I want to ask you one question. What are your observations looking or reading at the sentences? What are your observations reading all these sentences? You must have seen that all these sentences have some time reference. All these sentences talk about a particular time or duration. Let's take the first sentence for example. Over an hour. The next one, for 3 years. The next one, 2 years. 2 hours. Since morning. 10 o'clock. Over 8 hours. 5 hours. 5 days. 10 years. Now friends, what are these durations for? These durations indicate the duration of an activity. And what are the activities in all these sentences? Talk, work, study, watch, answer, working, riding, traveling, working. So, I hope you are getting some grip over using the future perfect continuous tense. Let's see some more examples of the first scenario itself. We are talking about duration before something in the future. I'm going to speak out some examples and I want you to compare these sentences with the formula first of all, then the usage, the definition, the analogy. Are you ready? Let's get started. He will not have been smoking for 5 years by then. By 4 o'clock, Kate will have been playing tennis for 3 hours. By the end of the year, she will have been working long enough to get the benefits. In 3 months, they will have been seeing each other for a year. In July next year, you will have been studying for 3 years. In March, I will have been working here for 2 years. By the end of the day, he will have been carrying 90 bags of potatoes. How long will you have been studying when you get your degree? You will have been waiting for over 2 hours when the train finally arrives. I will have been writing articles on different topics before you come. Now friends, it's very easy to identify the sentences which are in the future perfect continuous tense. And how it is easy? Just identify the subject plus will have been plus V1 plus ing. If you're able to find this out, you will easily conclude that a particular sentence is in future perfect continuous tense. is also easy to figure out the V1 plus ing in all these sentences. If we start with sentence number 1, it is smoking, playing, working, seeing, studying, working, carrying, studying, waiting, writing. Are you following it? Are you able to correlate all these sentences with the formula? If so, then congratulations. You have a grip over this tense. Let's see the second scenario. The second scenario is all about cause of something in the future. Sometimes, friends, in your life, you would have to reason out. You would have to give justifications of a particular activity. Now, if this activity is in the future, and if this activity is going to continue for some time in the future, and if you have to give justifications or reasoning out, you will have to use the future perfect continuous tense. Let me give you the very first example. Jason will be tired because he will have been jogging for over an hour. Claudia's English will perfect because she will have been studying English for 3 years now. So friends, in the first two examples, you can see that these sentences are answers to the question why. If we take the first sentence, if somebody asks, why will Jason be tired? You answer out by saying, Jason will be tired because he will have been jogging for over an hour. For second sentence, it is as good as answering the question, why will Claudia's English be perfect? And then you say, Claudia's English will be perfect because she will have been studying English for 3 years now. So similarly, friends, I'm going to speak out 7 more examples, and I want you to think about the question which might be formulated looking at the sentence. So are you ready? Let's get started. He will be tired because he will have been traveling all day. Tony will be tired when he gets here because he will have been exercising for 3 hours. Even though she will have been dancing the whole night, Mary will still look fresh. They will be tired when they get home because they will have been working all day. They will win that contest because they will have been practicing for 6 months. Practicing for it since 6 months. He will be tired because he will have been exercising so hard. By that time, he will have been working for 12 hours. So, he will be tired. So friends, were you able to make questions out of these sentences? The reason I'm asking is, these sentences are an answer to the question why. Let's take any random example. Sentence number 6 is as good as answering the question, why will they be tired? And then you answer, they will be tired when they get home because they will have been working all day. Sentence number 7, why will they win that contest? The answer is, they will win that contest because they will have been practicing for it since 6 months. So, as the title suggests, if you want to talk about cause of something in future, you have to use the future perfect continuous tense. Friends, I hope the scenario number 2 is also very clear to you. Before I take your questions, I want you to recall all that we went through so far. We talked about the usage, and then the definition, then the formula, the scenarios and examples. I'm going to ask you a question, give you 5 seconds to recall, and I'll tell out the answer so that you can revise this tense real quick. Are you ready? Let's get started with the usage. So what is the usage of the future perfect continuous tense? Your time starts now. Fantastic. You are right. The future perfect continuous tense is a verb tense that describes action that will continue up until a point in the future. Question to you. Is it necessary that the activity began sometime in the past, present, or in future? Your time starts now. You are absolutely right. It is not necessary as to when a particular activity began. The activity could have begun sometime in the past, or the activity could have just started in the present, or the activity will begin in future. It doesn't matter. What matters is the activity should continue for some time in future. To use this tense to describe it. Fantastic. You are getting a good grip over this tense. But what is the definition? Your time starts now. Absolutely correct. The tense which is used to represent a continuous action which will be done at a certain time in future is called the future perfect continuous tense. Wonderful, you're doing a great job. Why don't you tell me the formula while I give you 5 seconds to recall? Your time starts now. Amazing. The formula is subject plus will plus have been plus V1 plus ing plus object and plus the remaining part of the sentence. Nice. Now can you tell me the 2 scenarios where this tense can be used to describe them? Scenario number 1 is your time starts now. Exactly right. It's to describe the duration before something in future. But what about the scenario number 2? Your time starts now. You are right. If you want to talk about cause of something in the future, if you want to talk about justification for an activity in the future, you use this particular tense. Dear friends, I hope you have a good mastery over this tense by now. If you still have questions, you can ask me anything in the comment section below. It may include your doubts, your suggestions, feedback or recommendation over my teaching style, or any other concept in your English literature or grammar that you want me to make a video explanation of. Friends, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day ahead.